What's the dumbest myth people today believe? There are dumber ones out there, but the one I, as an estate lawyer, deal with constantly is the idea that there needs to be a reading of the will, where the family all gather and the lawyer reads it aloud to them for the first time. We don't do that, we just mail everyone their own copy if they want it. It's a really stubbornly persistent one because people continue to see scenes of it in movies and TV shows, where it's used for some big dramatic reveal. I've even had irate beneficiaries insist that the administration of the estate can't be official until there's a reading. Way back, like 150 years ago or so, I believe we used to do something like that at times because you couldn't exactly presume literacy on the part of the beneficiaries, but now we feel it's a pretty safe bet that you can either read it or find someone who can. They'd also do it because everyone was already together and it was easier than trying to communicate by horse-drawn mail. Horses are notoriously terrible at drawing, so that was really a bad way of handling it. Some people seem to think that I'm being a little disparaging toward horses with my comment. That was not my intention. I think horses are incredibly useful animals. While their time in the mail room was short-lived and unsuccessful, it was great to see that after their transition to the arts and crafts room, they found somewhere they could really stick. Hey man, they made do with the technology and education levels of the time. Who are we to question horse drawings? Fish only have a 5-second memory. My fish are fed automatically on a timer and they know dinner time better than my goddamn cat. That's because the cat is busy daydreaming about eating your fishes. Goldfish memory span has been proven to be closer to 3 months. Better memory than me. You have to wait 48 hours to report someone missing. This one's downright harmful. I told my girlfriend this last week. For some strange reason she still believed the myth, then painstakingly went through all of the steps that I would go through if I thought she was missing. All those steps would happen in far less than 12 hours of her not checking back in. Just a couple weeks ago my wife and I reported my missing MIL, who has dementia, to the police after she was missing for only 3 hours. It was just getting dark and was around 40 degrees with temps dropping. Honestly, I expected to be brushed off and not taken seriously. Instead, a full search and rescue was initiated rather quickly with a plane, drones, a K-9 unit and several dozen people on foot, reporting on social media and a text sent to everyone in the area, and who knows what else. She was found several hours later, miles away, by a good Samaritan who called the police and they were able to match up the description on our missing persons report. She'd crossed county lines by foot but the counties were able to easily make the connection. So yeah, lesson learned. You don't have to wait. I felt silly for calling but it made a big difference to getting her home safely. I work as a 911 dispatcher, so I have a bit more insight. For anyone with mental illness, they are on the move right away. Aviation, dogs, the whooshabang. Juvenile? Same thing. The younger the faster. If someone calls and says, "My son hasn't texted me in 3 days. He's 40. Just unlike him, not to text. We won't send someone to you for a report. We'll do a wellness check on his address, but your son is allowed not to text you." My long-term partner missing 12 hours. Police took a report, mainly because we were very worried and it was completely out of character and he didn't turn up to work. Police were at my door that night. Reason for him being missing? Dead. I remember the myth that gum takes 7 years to fully pass through your digestive system. That takes me back to being 5 years old again. I think that was just a mom tactic to keep you from constantly swallowing your gum. My 6-year-old daughter accidentally swallowed some gum a couple months ago. She excitedly told me when she saw it come out into the toilet later. She knows the truth. Yet again, one of my top comments is poop-related. Sigh. When I had cancer a few years back and was doing chemotherapy, I had people who constantly questioned that I actually had cancer due to the fact that my hair didn't fall out until I was actually in remission, had been off chemo for about 2 to 3 weeks when my hair started gradually thinning and falling out. It's a complete myth that every single person's hair will have the same reaction to chemo. Some people lose hair right away, some don't. Everybody is different. There were people who accused my wife of lying about her lymphoma because she didn't look sick. My late mother-in-law didn't look sick. She went in because she had leg pain and the doctors did some scans to check for blood clots and found tumors just all over the place. They looked higher and it was just everywhere. She only lived for 12 more days and right up till that no one even knew she was sick, herself included. You don't look sick. You don't look like an idiot, yet here you are, opening your mouth and proving me wrong. I prefer you don't look like a fucking doctor. That's very unfortunate for your wife. I think it's a pretty common mentality that seems to crop up. In order for you to be really sick you have to look a certain way, when all kinds of diseases you'd never be able to tell someone has just by looking at them. It's like people are appointing themselves to the commission of the actually sick people are and worried that someone will get away with pretending to be sick. Maybe it's an offshoot of the welfare queen mentality where there's a paranoia that someone might get one over on the system when the overwhelming, by a huge margin, number of people in the system both need it and don't especially want to have to need it. I'm experiencing this right now. I've been sick for a few years now, something that popped up unexpectedly and changed my life in a big way. I work at a job that is great, the people are lovely, however I had a flare-up of my illness and missed some days over a period of a few weeks, one day here and there. I was going through hell behind the scenes, anxious that my illness was about to upend my life again, scared I was going to go to sleep and never wake up, spending every spare moment either in treatment or in bed. But at work I put on a brave face and do my job as good as I always have. I make it through the day with a smile and never complain. Then back home, back to bed, or straight to the clinic for a scan or infusion. Anyway, some coworkers questioned the sick days and I explained to them what was going on. They were pretty understanding initially and that was that. However, since then they have become super distant and I have been told they are questioning whether I'm lying because I don't look sick. Now my bosses are on my back asking me all kinds of personal questions about it, things I don't have to legally disclose. I disclosed my illness when I was hired and they asked me if that was the truth. I burst into tears. I was so overwhelmed and told them my doctor can provide all kinds of letters and info on what's going on if they don't understand it, but that this is very real and seriously affecting my life. My job is the one constant I have and the stress of that now being in jeopardy because of something I can't control is only making things worse. I was straight up told I could lose my job if I didn't improve and stop missing days. I've never felt so isolated and offended before and now I'm in this horrible place of having to basically do as I'm told or risk being fired. No more sick days despite legally having them available for a reason and never using them until now. Fuck the coworkers, I don't give a shit about what they think, but obviously my job is important to me. People don't understand that chemo isn't one drug. It's dozens of different drugs, in different combinations and dosage schedules. So you might anticipate people respond to it differently. Not even to mention that not every cancer diagnosis even requires chemo. I found out I had thyroid cancer my senior year of high school. Had surgery 2 weeks later, and have been cancer-free for the 8 years since. People thought I was lying cause I never lost any hair, SMH. I think a lot of people don't even realize that chemo is what causes the hair loss, not cancer itself. That you eat spiders in your sleep. Spider will not knowingly walk into a predator's mouth. They can sense both the heartbeat, heat and noise from humans. All things that would alert them not to go into our mouth. I kinda needs this to be true. I blame my weight on the copious amounts of spiders I'm ingesting every night. That Einstein failed his grade school math class. It was the subject of a Ripley's Believe It or Not column in 1935 and Einstein himself refuted the article. In primary school he had been at the top of class and by 15 he had mastered differential and integral calculus. If I recall correctly, it had to do with him moving between schools and one graded students from 1 to 6 and the other graded in the reverse, from 6 to 1. So someone at some point mixed something up and thought Einstein failed class even though in reality he had a perfect grade. That's the difference when you move from Germany, 1 equals best, 6 equals fail, to Switzerland, 1 equals fail, 6 equals best. A German 1 is a Swiss 6 in school. That magnetic jewelry/healing will cure just about anything. A dude named Mesmer the 1780 came up with the idea, and it have been debunked many times, yet it's still a billion-dollar industry. Fun fact, the word mesmerized is related to him. I've got to constantly tell people that my cool magnetic bracelet isn't for healing or anything. I'm a seamstress, and it holds my pins, but that always gets forgotten about because, did you know those can align your spiritual energies? Like, aligning my pins and needles isn't cool enough. See also homeopathy, something debunked 100 years ago but still persists. It's the idea that 1. Water molecules carry the memory of things they touch and 2. You can be cured of any health ailment by being exposed to what made you sick. So they take like some bacteria or a virus. Mix it in water, dilute it like a 1,000 times until you're left with just water. Then give you the water as medicine and say you're cured. It goes against everything we know about chemistry and biology. I learned that homeopathy was very important in the history of science in medicine for a very specific reason. This was in an episode of Behind the Bastards. https://youtube.be/9kz7alswsw. At the time, claims by the founder of homeopathy that his system worked were starting to irritate conventional doctors of the era as he became increasingly famous. If memory serves, this was around 1800s or so. Some prominent doctors called for an objective study of homeopathy to determine whether it is really effective. Numerous doctors start independently testing the claims, but quickly realize it is more effective to pool their efforts together. To reduce any bias in their experiment, the collaboration came up with a clever system. Test subjects would be administered either a homeopathic solution or a placebo. They would not know which they received. However, the novel innovation of their experiment was that the experimenters also would not know which vials contain which solution. This is apparently credited as the first double-blind study in medicine. As you'd expect, the study showed that homeopathic medicine is no better than placebo. This makes sense, since the homeopathic solution and the placebo are both just water. The podcast also notes that during the time the theory of homeopathy became popular, conventional medicine involved things like drinking mercury or bloodletting. Just hydrating a person is better than actively poisoning them, so some people were much better off going to a quack giving them magic water than to a dangerous conventional treatment of the 1800s. Today, of course, most medicine is greatly more effective than plain water, so there's no justified reason for homeopathy to still be kicking around. Many people still believe hymens are like plastic food seals that cover up the hole and get popped when you have sex for the first time, and if a girl doesn't bleed, she's not a virgin. Yep, it's a dumb one, it's just a thin piece of tissue. It can tear from things that aren't sex, and can heal as well, and some women just never had one. So you can have a woman who's a virgin whose hymen has been torn, and a woman who's taken a break from having almost daily sex whose hymen is entirely intact. Semi-related fun fact, the vagina can completely grow shut. It happens in young infants when the skin of the labia is damaged, which isn't difficult seeing how thin and fragile the skin there is. Had a friend whose daughter was born like that. It opened back up when she grew. My kid had it grow shut after a diaper rash. My GP had never seen it before, so I had to explain it to her. Got referred to a pediatrician. We opted not to wait it out, so we got a topical eczema cream which has skin thinning as a side effect. Put it on until the skin was open again, then Vaseline on it to prevent it from growing shut again. Vulvas are weird. My 4-year-old daughter's inner labia fused for no discernible reason and she started getting TP stuck there after urinating. We had to use an estrogen cream for a while, which gave her hormonal acne. Piggybacking on the vagina topic, the myth that multiple partners will make a vagina loose. Here's what actually happens. The vagina tenses up during arousal to create more room for a penis, sort of like a reverse erection. Being nervous can inhibit that process. Unless there is a medical condition like vaginism present, experienced women have an easier time relaxing enough to make penetration possible, getting wet and tenting up, and who knows, even having fun with it. You're not supposed to cram it in there when she's not warmed up and euphemize it with "you're so tight, baby." Had to explain to a grown-ass adult that blood isn't blue inside the body and red once it hits oxygen because blood already carries oxygen. ETA, I didn't expect this to take off. I first commented when the post was brand new and only had 30 comments. I understand that I came off as a snarky asshole about it, but the dude and I were cool after 10 minutes of convincing him that what he was taught was a myth. No hurt feelings, buds. Red blood is iron-based, blue blood is copper-based. Offhand, the only organism I can think of with blue blood is a horseshoe crab. I've been taught this from multiple teachers in school. Fuck. There was a science teacher at my high school who believed this. And to him, let's use the scientific method here. Hypothesis, blood in veins is blue. Consequence, if blood was blue and only turned red when exposed to air, then we should see blood as blue when withdrawing blood via a syringe or other sealed blood-drawing mechanism containing no significant amount of air. Experiment, get blood drawn and look at the result. Results, it's dark red. Conclusion, blood isn't blue. Had a cab driver insisting that the reactor meltdown at Fukushima was a failed Chinese attack on the US. The plan was to superheat the rods so they'd burn into the ground, through the center of the earth, and come out in America and irradiate it. Amazing. There's a lot to unpack in that, but the one that stands out is if it sinks to the center of the earth, how the hell is it going to sink upward again? Thanks for watching this video. Hit the bell next to subscribe so you never miss a video. Like, comment and subscribe if you are new on the channel.